So in past, if you guys remember, we built an application where we were showing movies on a page and different options around movies, where we had you could sort the movies, you could sort the movies by year or genre or rating, and you could sort ascending or descending. If you see all of these options, and let me write it down here so you guys have visualized it. All of these options, right? Sort by different options, genre, year, rating. All of these are operations on our movies array. And by nature of that, these operations have correlation with each other. So you could sort by genre as well as rating, or you could sort by year as well as rating, or you could sort by all three of them together. However, in our code, we are maintaining different uh, different state variables for all of these properties. Genre, year, rating. We are maintaining genre, year, and ratings. So when you build a complex application, an application which has many properties on your data, maintaining such state becomes really tedious. So one problem is you have maintaining such state is a tedious job. So it's a, as we call it, it's a maintenance nightmare. Just can I spell maintenance? Yes. So it's a maintenance issue. Plus, it's a logical issue as well. Because now when you build your sorting logic, you have to remember all the fields and maybe you will miss some field. And then also it's an application issue. What's an application issue, right? So right now we just have one component which is doing all of this. If I had another component, let's say movie page or let's say movie rental, something like that, you would need this kind of sortings everywhere. You cannot maintain this kind of huge list of state variables across your application, across different pages, across different things, because if user is, let's say, on a movie page, they move to, let's say, rental page, they will lose all the sorting they might have applied when they move pages, because each page will have their own state variable. So it's a bad user experience as well. So it can lead to UX issues as well. So while for an initial application, this is a good thing to learn, React provides something really, really nice, which is called useReducer hook to maintain this kind of related states. So React provides this kind of um, provides this kind React provides a useReducer hook to maintain this kind of related state variables together as a one object. And that one object is called state. As simple as we can know, we can call this name of this object can be anything, but it is in general referred to as state, and you have initial state, and then you can use something called reducer pattern to update the application. So I know I throw a lot of words there, and most of it, if you're first time listening to them, it'll be too confusing. So what do I mean by that? So React provides us something called useReducer, and there are three parts to a reducer: a store. So think of it as like a physical store, you know. So let's say your Amazon store, uh, and which is holding all your items. So this is an example of uh, Jira board. Uh, I don't know if anybody of you have seen anytime a Jira board or any project management websites, but essentially when you start working as a developer, you will be assigned stories to build. So let's say build me a shopping cart, or build me a landing page of Airbnb. Those are stories. And you will have tickets like, hey, I have this bug on my page. Can you help me resolve? So Jira board needs uh, let's look at quickly so you guys kind of understand. Jira board helps us track our stories and tickets. So you will be assigned your stories from your QA engineer. So for example, here there's a story. Please create create me user authentication page. Please create me dashboard page. And you will have tickets which will reflect the status of the stories. Create login form. It is in to do. Then add validation. It's in progress. And now my story is done. So it's incomplete. So your project manager will assign you stories and tickets, and you will be as a developer moving those stories to different places, different states in Jira. Now this is a very complex process which requires holding our stories at one place. So no matter what page I go in my application, I see consistent details. Again, just like our movie, stories and tickets are related entities which need status such as to do, completed, or done. For this kind of related entities, React provides useReducer, and useReducer essentially has three parts to it: a store, an action, and um, a reducer, which takes the action and modifies the store. So store holds your initial values when you begin your application. When you begin your application, which is using useReducer hook, your store is holding initial state, and then you take action. Hey, my story. So what is an action? Action is a plain language action, which you define. Hey, I have completed working on my story. So please move my story from to do to in progress. So you're doing this plain language action in progress. So you took the action of moving a story from to do to complete, to do to in progress. That action went to our reducer, and reducer then in turn created a new state based off initial state where it modified this line, add validation story, and it said, hey, I need to do this like this. Now, you might say why we are introducing so much complexity of maintaining a store and maintaining a reducer and then having actions. Why so much complexity? This is too much. And I agree with you. When your application is simple, this is too much. And it's very hard. It can be very hard initially to understand this as well. But when your application grows and when your state is shared across different pages, what do I mean by that? In my application, there are two pages, story page and tickets page. I am sharing my data across both the pages, and whatever I do here should be reflected on the second store as well. So let's say if I do anything, for example, I add a story, let's say payment page, bill me a payment page. I added a story on my stories page. I come here, it is reflecting in my tickets page. So I have a state which is stored, uh, a state which is shared between pages, and I need a central location to share this state. And as I described earlier, all of the actions on stories and tickets are related. They are not happening in isolation. So right now I took action of creating a story. So I did action called add story. Similarly, if I click on this X button, I take an action of delete story. I can do add ticket and delete ticket. And previously we did action of moving ticket from to in progress. That was move ticket. So I am taking action on my initial state, and my reducer, which is a function, it is capturing that action, and based on the type of the action, it is modifying my original state with updates. So let's take the simplest example. I'll open the console here. Let's take the simplest example of add story. So when I say build me a payment story, payment page, my code flow is coming to the line 27, then 28, and my initial state is, let me copy this. Let's do this. When I'm coming here, and I'm doing this, converting it to string, but that's okay. Let's do this option. When I do this, I am in my initial state, I have just two stories, user authentication and dashboard and payment. User authentication and dashboard. And the third value gets added here. So if I do it again, let's say card. I had a story of card page. Now my initial state or the current state, I would not refer it as the initial state. Your question. Thanks, Jerry. So you may be able to relate it. So once we do cart and cart page, Our initial state has now changed to having these three stories. So it's a modified state. And now I'm adding the fourth story. So my current state has three stories now. That means I am storing the state and updating it in place. So what happens if I remove it? Let's do this. Let's remove the dashboard. Okay, I did not add the console login dashboard, but you guys should be able to. If I did it here, we would get the four stories. So each time we are creating a new state from existing state. So our original state variable, initial state is never modified. We always create a new state variable every time we take actions. And the beauty of this pattern is now my state is shared across both the pages. And second beauty is I can track while debugging this and play back what happened when my page was getting modified. Two benefits. And plus, now when I'm clicking on add story or this button, I am through my code telling React what I'm trying to do, which is exactly defined in human understandable way, is I'm taking action of adding a story, deleting a story, or adding a ticket or deleting a ticket. So that is the line that I'm showing. Is from story display page, we are taking action of adding a story, which is now updating my store with from where story counts, which were originally two, go to three. Two becomes three. And now we don't need to do anything in my story page as well as ticket page because they have subscribed to uh, my my state. They are reading my state with a subscription. They automatically get the updated data. So let's say there was a third page in our application which had nothing to do with story and tickets. Let's say a random pages. Let's say project manager dashboard. So somebody who is having a random page, project dashboard, and somebody adds a story by, let me color this a little different. If somebody adds a story, now although my story display and ticket display page did not don't have anything to do with project dashboard page, because they are part of the same Jira board store, they get the additional details of story display automatically. Now, this is the beauty of use. This is the action that, or action is a common word here. So the process that we did here is classically known in software development as decoupling, something called decoupling. And this is a sometimes interviewers like to ask this kind of words, or you can preemptively use this kind of word. We decoupled our story page and ticket page, making them independent of project dashboard page, yet all of them are subscribed to store. So quick recap, we have a store and store has a reducer, and reducer gets modifies through via action. So we take an action which goes to reducer and it modifies our store. Bring it here. So this pattern, this whole pattern is actually very critical pattern. While React offers this kind of use reducer hook, at the component level, there is extremely well sophisticated library which can help you build this. It's called Redux, and hopefully we'll be covering it in our upcoming classes, which uses this reducer action and store pattern heavily, where you have related items of items which are related in nature, and action on one item should be reflected everywhere. We use this pattern. So let's quickly look at our code. I I have my initial state. I have my action with a plain language definition of what I want to, what I even am allowed to do on my initial states, you know. So anything that is not defined, right, uh, cannot be done on my initial state. So let's say if I did not have action of delete story, I can never delete a story. So I am defining uh, how to act on each of my individual, how to act on my store. Through my actions, I'm strictly preventing any non-standard operations on my store. So this is one of the beauties of action as well. It gives you predictability of how your store will be modified. So going back to my example, your actions predict how your store is going to modify, but actions themselves don't do anything. They are just definitions. They are just like a, for example, just they are themselves like credit cards, you know. They credit card itself can't do anything. You have to take your credit card and go to store and swipe it to a machine to actually buy something. So going to store and swiping is when you swipe, you're taking an act. You are then taking an action, and then you get a new item through your purchase. So this reducer is the definition of what is happening. You're swiping your card, and in return, you get a new state, which is now you have one additional item that you swapped for. So you're, for example, let's assume that the state was your house, and you went and bought you two new dresses or two new clothes by taking the action of swiping a credit card. Your new store is, or your new state of the house is, whatever was there in the house previously, plus whatever action you took, which is purchasing two new dresses. So again, I repeated with the house example, line 31 to 34. This is called destructuring, and it's a very common pattern. But what essentially saying, this is my current house or current state of my house. Let's say you have 20 dresses in your wardrobe rather than house. I'm going to use wardrobe. Let's say you have 20 dresses in your wardrobe. You go and do the action of buying new uh, two new dresses with your credit card. Please take my previous 20 items. Please take my previous 20 dresses and add two new dresses that I just purchased. These are your previous 20 clothes you had in your wardrobe, and these are two new. So now you are getting a new wardrobe with 22 dresses. It's like somebody gifted you a new wardrobe with same 20 dresses that you had from before and plus two new. So this is the job of reducer, and then you can now um, have that map to your entire closed collection. So here in our application, we are we are using the initial state and reducer function in useReducer hook to create a combined state. Look at this. I'm going to take this here, pasting it here. Just think how simplified my code became by clearly defining what my state is and how I wish to modify it. So what my state is stories and tickets. So I did not have to do something like this. If I have to put here uh, const stories, otherwise I would have been doing like this, set stories, use state, then I would be passing the entire story object here, story array here. I did not have to do it like this. Plus, the beauty of this is now I can take this state and pass it to my stories page as well as tickets page and pass my actions, and not functions. Previously, when we were doing this, we would have passed individual functions, set state, and we would have done same for states tickets here. And we would have maintained so many things in our code like this if we were going towards our previous implementation. Instead, I took the common set of actions and common set of state and passed it to each my child page. And now whenever I do any change on my state from any of the pages, it gets reflected on the previous state and next other page. So that's why when I say build me a payments page, let's look at here. Here, this is completely different component, different page. I don't have a payment here. I go here, say payment page. I'm not modifying my tickets page or any state variable in ticket. Yet I see it because ticket has, if I go back to this diagram, tickets is also subscribed to my same state. So I'm going to pause here and allow you guys to think what we learned just now and then ask any questions, how story page updated our state and ticket page got the details and why we are using useReducer at the first place. This is a lot to process and probably one of the most complex topics we have studied till today. So ask your questions if you have. Don't be shy. I'll take a pause for 5 seconds. Okay, so if no questions, our next topic of today, and really I have another application to, I had to build same application in another version to highlight is something called useContext. So before I do that, let's look at this. So I am passing different things to individually my pages, ticket page and story page from my app component. My app component is the hold of is the holder of my state. Now this doesn't scale too broadly. So it's much better pattern than what we had before with our movies, but it's still not most ideal. And many times you need a state which every component just has access to without even being passed on. For example, theming of your application, right? You guys might have seen dark or black themes on different pages. Those kind of things heavily use something called use context. What use context does is you take the entire state logic that we had, which is initial state, actions, reducers, everything we had, and create a higher order component in React with that. And you render your entire application under that. So here I'm creating a component now known as board context, and I am rendering my entire application under this. So I'm creating a new component, and then I'm simply going inside my app component. There are no states or no use reducers here. We did all of that in our board provider component. And now I am just simply uh, simply showing my story page and ticket page. So if I bring this code here, just for comparison, I am not passing anything like states, dispatch, actions to my tickets and stories page. Yet I'm able to achieve similar functionality as previously. Let's quickly verify there's no payment here. Payment page. Because I use something called use context to share a state across all the child components of the board provider. So whoever is a child component of board provider, right? Board provider is a component, is a component created with use context, and story pages and ticket pages are its child components. They directly get access to the state which was defined by uh, use board. And then we use a new hook that we created in board component. So we have to use the use context, you have to create a new component as well as a new hook. The use board is the hook we create, and we then use the use board hook inside independent components instead of reading it from the property. So let me go here. This is the definition of use stories function from previous example. And now this is the definition. So let me side by side copy it. Quickly put it here for your comparison. This was the previous example where we did not use context, and we had to pass all of these things, dispatch and state and stories, everything from the parent app component. An app component had to take responsibility of sharing everything, whereas use context helps you achieve same state passing across the application from one central place. So if we had another page which was not a app.js, which needed to use stories and ticket pages, we would have to have created this kind of pattern in that component as well. Whereas this use context helps you centralize that logic at one place, just one place, and then all the child components of the new component that we create board provider have access to. So here are the children. When we say this kind of pattern, we have all the components that will be rendered as a children of this component have the state and dispatch assigned to them. So that's a real quick about use context. Uh, use reducer is at component levels. If you had to remember it, use reducer is still at the component level, whereas use context is your at your entire React application level. So any confusion on this? That's about we want to cover today.